Yeah, and his mom and dad just had their 50th too. In August? July? May? Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Mundos has had theirs, I think, and just had it. So anyway, did you hear what happened? We got this whole thing ready to go. We're going to keep it real simple. Doug Cohen was going to be the MC, and he's going to give a 15-minute talk at the end. He's got COVID. I found out yesterday at noon, so I scrambled to write an introduction, to do what I have to do to keep it simple. Yeah, well, it's never that simple, unfortunately. Yeah, I know. But you still gotta kind of. Well, I've known you a long time, and you're never gonna do that. That's the usual. But you're still gonna be great. All right. Test. If we could get your attention, please. Thank you. Okay, please, if we can have your attention. If you could try to have a seat, we would appreciate that. Thank you. You too, Ben.
The greatest memories in the world. I want to know how many times. Don't do it.
got a helmet on side over there.
That's cool, Coach.
Rod's here. What's up, buddy? It's got every coach's name except for Herstein's.
Hey, Coach, real quick, does Herstein still have that football yet signed?
Oh, yeah.
I bought this helmet at a Radio Golf like 20 years ago. It's got all the head coaches' signatures except Herstein. I want to have him sign it and give it back to the program. So, and then, okay, and then what do you want me to do with this?
I'm going to give it to Texas collecting our benefactor money. Hey, thanks. Okay, thanks for taking a seat. Toward the end, after dinner. Yeah. All right, thank you. We're going to try to start. Try is the operative word. Thank you. Is this up as loud as it goes?
It'll go a little bit more.
All right.
Problem is, once everybody's quiet, it'll be too loud.
Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and try to get started. A couple of housekeeping things first. To get into the game tonight, please make sure that you have the wristband, okay, for when we try to go through. Second thing is, there was a handout when you came in. The cover page is worthless. I had that done last Thursday, I guess it was about last Thursday, and everything was up to date. We were good, and I left for Lexington, Kentucky to see grandkids. Drove back up from there this morning, and everything has changed. Kickoff has been backed up a half an hour. You're stuck with a different MC. I'll tell you that story in a minute. And away we go. So, I don't think any of the records have changed since you guys checked in tonight, but we don't know. All right. But in all seriousness, first and foremost, I want to thank the North Farmington Boosters for the setup of everything in here. And the thing that I think they did best was they ordered this glorious Michigan Day. And for all of us who grew up here, this is the memory we have of what it was like to grow up in Farmington. And to have these leaves turning and have the band night, or a Saturday afternoon, as the early 60s would tell us. But anyways, we want to thank you for being here. We have people who have come from all over, and we really, really do appreciate that. There's a number of people here who have made significant benefactor gifts for a legacy gift for the football program. You know who you are, and we thank you very much for doing so. Going to make a couple remarks before we start.
Please report to the main office, please. Agent Ward, please report to the main office. Thank you.
Actually, that's music to my ears. As a school guy, you know, I kind of miss that. But anyway, a couple remarks before we get started and before we hear from Ron Holland, coach of the Raiders. But I've always been thankful that my mom and dad did not buy the house in Birmingham. In December of 1962, we moved from Northwest Detroit to Farmington. And yeah, it was called Farmington. I guess the hills did not exist back then. But we moved into a ranch house in Kimberly North subdivision on Coach Lane. And in my former life, I was an English teacher. And I would tell you that I would want you to find the irony, the foreshadowing, or the symbolism of me growing up on Coach Lane, but we will save that for another day. But I am humbled to be here tonight, to be back home in Farmington Hills, at North Farmington High School. We now live in Rochester, Minnesota. We are probably the only people you know who moved further north in retirement. But I read something the other day that really resonated with me. You can love a place. You can love a place like no other, but still not live there. And that's true for me. I love this place like no other, but the pull of grandsons trumps that. 60 years, it's a long time. Yet I'm sure for you, as it is for me, some of the memories made and the friendships forged in those long ago decades have significantly shaped the person that you've become. Perhaps that's why you've come from Virginia and Illinois, Southern California and Oregon, and countless places far and wide. You've come back to greet old teammates, to thank old coaches, to bask in past glories, to tell lies about how good you used to be, and how amazingly wonderful it is to be here in this place with our Raider family after 2 postponements of this 60-year celebration due to COVID. This event, in reality, is 60 years of Raider football 2.0. Indeed, tonight we will be cheering on the Raiders, the Raider team number 62. But the specter of COVID still haunts us. We've lost loved ones. We've lost teammates. And just yesterday, COVID raised its head again and gave you Plan B for an MC. And I'm certain it's painfully apparent to you already just how much we miss Doug Cohen being up here. But at this time, I'd like to give a shout out to the key people who have worked so hard to put this event together. My partners in crime on the steering committee, Craig Wysinski and Drew Mahalik. Craig lives in Bonita Springs, Florida, and he isn't with us tonight. He recently had a visitor named Ian. Craig reports, however, that he's okay, and he found out that his car floats. And Drew Mahalik, some of you might remember that he went on to Notre Dame and was a teammate of Rudy's. Craig and Drew, my Raider brothers, were the inspiration for this event. And these guys were smart enough to realize that when one of them lived 2,500 miles away, another lived 1,300 miles away, and I lived the closest, 650 miles away, that we better get some boots on the ground in Michigan. So we did. Ron Crow, the guy is a saint. Ron, stand up, please. None of this happens without Ron Crow. I can't tell you all the things he is sick of hearing from me, but you best, Ron. Thank you. Yeah, sure she is. And Gary Penta and Doug Cohen. These guys provided not only inspiration, but the perspiration to get this thing put together. They gave advice. They sought out vendors. They fronted dollars. They took RSVPs. They crafted name tags. They made site visits. They interfaced with everyone connected with the event. Truly remarkable. Truly selfless. And none of this happens without them. And finally, a huge thank you is in order to North Farmington Assistant Principal Scott Fifield. Scott. Scott's patience with my zillion calls and texts lengthened his workday on multiple occasions. I even texted him on the way up from Kentucky this morning to do something else. Athletic Director Stacy Punzel had such an eye for detail and oversaw with Scott all the moving parts. And the North Farmington football boosters, we've already mentioned them, and I'm going to say specifically Gene Coleman. Your insights, your efforts enhanced every detail of tonight, and we can't thank you and all of the parents enough. I've always believed that a sense of place has stunning power. Yet with that said, bricks and mortar, paint and glass don't define a school. People define schools. Kids define schools. Teachers define schools. Coaches define schools. And how blessed we have been at North Farmington High School to be raised and nurtured by some of the greats. Some of them we're blessed to have here with us tonight. Ron Holland, Ralph Temby, Dennis Fitzgerald, John Harrington, Irv Horowitz, Rich Burrell, Todd Schultz, and the family of Warren McKenzie. The list of lives these men have influenced, the dreams they've inspired, is in the thousands. We see them now and still call coach. Thanks to all of you, individually and collectively, we were coached by the very best. Now it's my honor to present to you the most important man in my life, aside from my dad. And I know a lot of you feel the same way. But he's a man who taught us that class is not just a place you go to. It's something you aspire to. The coach of the Raiders, Ron Holland.
That Jones guy, he's something, isn't he? You'd think they'd name the building here after him. And maybe the athletic field and a few other things. He's never left, that's for sure. When he came here, I got to tell you the story. It's 1961. We're 7, 8, 9, and 10 grades. We have assembly in the gymnasium. He's class president of the 7th grade. He went on to be class president for 6 years in a row. They didn't have term limits back then. We said to him, Rick, take all the 7th graders and put them in the first row in the bleachers, because if we put them in the second or third, they won't be able to see over all the kids that are sitting in front of them. He took that to heart. It is really a wonderful thing to be here with all of you this evening. All the ex-players, managers, trainers, cheerleaders, marauders, band members, friends of North Farmington football, and most importantly, all of our parents who have been such instrumental in making North Farmington a special place. On behalf of myself, Coach Temby, Coach O'Leary, Coach Burrell, Schultz, Coach Bob, and Coach John, we thank you for being involved in our 62 years of North Farmington football. North Farmington football started in 1961. As you all well know, Warren D. McKenzie was the head football coach because he had come from Old Dunkel. He was a Western Michigan Bronco, as were most of the people, and Coach Dean and myself were Broncos. And so they had to pick the school colors. You know the colors of Western Michigan University? Brown and gold. There's only one other school in the state of Michigan that's brown and gold, and that's Detroit Henry Ford. Now at the time there's a show going on called McKenzie's Raiders. And they all thought, well, we're brown and gold. The Raiders, McKenzie, that's a given. So we became the Raiders. Tonight, I want to introduce three of the most important people in my life Mrs. McKenzie, Clarice. Her daughter, Susan Hewitt. And Mr. McKenzie's son, Tom. Warren McKenzie coached in 1961. He was junior varsity football team. He inspired to be something beyond a coach. They never called him coach. They called him Mister. They had so much respect for him that North Farmington was going to have an assistant principal, and he wanted to be the assistant principal of North Farmington High School. So we had to find a new football coach to replace him. Coach Dean and I were available, and they chose me to be in 1962 the head football coach in North Farmington High School. We now had to have a junior varsity team because we were going to be varsity. And we had to find somebody that we would believe in would be someone who would set the example for what we had done in North Farmington in 1961 under North Farmington High School head coach Warren McKenzie. Warren became an assistant principal. He went to Big Rapids to become a principal there, and he went on to the Michigan High School Athletic Association. We had all kinds of people that wanted an interview. We had a social studies position open. Coach Dean and I and Coach McKenzie, we were interviewing a few people, and this one guy we really liked. So we said to him, would you play football? Yeah, I played at Waterford High, I played tight end. That's it? Yeah. But my folks have season tickets to the Detroit Lions. I said, that's it? Yeah, he says, I kind of want to be a basketball guy. Oh, basketball, okay. We looked at one another and said, we kind of like this guy. Let's make him our head junior varsity football coach. He took the job, and he became a football coach. From 1962 to 1969, our junior varsity football team was the second-rated, highest-placed team in the state of Michigan. Unfortunately, they opened a school at Harrison High School. He applied the job, and so we lost our number one junior varsity football coach, had one of the finest records in the state of Michigan. Now, I don't have to tell you what he did at Harrison High School. He won a few games. And he became the winningest coach of high school football in the state of Michigan. Well, I just want to tell you, he's been the backfield coach for the last 4 years back at North Farmington. And all of you know who I'm talking about, John Harrington. I can only look back to the time that we spent here, and I can only tell you that it's been a marvelous experience for me and my family and all the young men that I've coached. As Warren McKenzie said on the day when we had all the North Farmington kids assembled in the assembly, if we work to do it right, it will last. And yes, it has lasted 62 years. Thank you.
Okay, in your program it says we're going to eat. I'm used to having 400 kids in here for lunch, so we can manage this with 160 of us. Yeah, well, yeah, this would be easy, I guess. Okay, I think we'll start with this row of tables, and then that row of tables, and that row of tables, and all of you will follow those rows of table, which will go first. So those with Coach Holland will go first, those tables, then these tables, and those tables, and those tables. I'm sorry about you guys over there, but that looks like a younger group. All right? All right. Help yourselves, and then we'll be back for some closing program. If you haven't checked in, please do so. Get your name tag and get your wristbands. Thank you.
Backdrop. I want Bill Clinton to be the there we go.
Getting used to it. Yeah, getting used to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and our kids should be here shortly. Yeah, make an announcement to tell them to get their food if they,
It'll be like talking to the lunchroom. If you have not gotten your food yet, please do so that we can move the program along. If you have not gotten your food yet, please do so we can take a tour of the building and you can see our new weight room and other places. Thank you.
Oh man, okay. So there's one.
that guy came in at like 12 o'clock today, right?
What's that?
Mike Fleming or whatever.
Yeah, he got in?
He came in at 12 o'clock to office. He goes, the first ever graduated North Carolina. I'm like, okay.
He was the first class president, and he was the first graduate then. First guy across the stage.
like to get started tonight?
Everything you're saying is being recorded and will be used against you. Great speech. Name's still in the building.
In Velcro.
We're fine on time. We got plenty of time. Our kids are all waiting on the hall. We got to get together. Yeah, they're good.
Okay. Oh, geez, here we go. Okay, if we can get you to have a seat again, please.
If you have not eaten, please get your food, and then if everyone can have a seat. Thank you.
Okay, guys, if we can have your attention, please. We need to have everybody get a seat.
I would like to remind everybody that the real reason
Between now and 42.
is because there's a football game.
Yeah!
And we are so pleased that the North Farmington football team, number 62, is here with us tonight. Not the jersey number, you guys. Team 62. All right? All right. Very good. So if we can have everybody get a seat, I'm going to say a couple things about the guy behind me.
And then, so your note or mine?
That's yours. I'm sorry. I thought you were all done.
Okay, having been a head coach, I know that the last thing that I would want is an interruption to my pregame routine. And trust me, John has patiently and kindly put up with a lot of adjustments to his schedule. With that said, if we can have your attention, please. With that said, John Herstein became the 6th varsity head coach in North Farmington history in 2019. And upon the occasion of the closing of Harrison High School, he authored only the 4th undefeated regular season in North Farmington history. Anyway, upon accepting the job, I called John from Minnesota, and I said, "Hello, John, this is Rick Jones. I used to work at North, and I love that football program, and I want to welcome you and wish you the best." Fortunately, he didn't hang up, and over the past 4 years, we've developed a very special text, call, and email friendship, often multiple times a week. We text family photos, we share football stories, we talk about coaching, we talk about kids, we talk about North. And until tonight, John would not have known who I was if I walked into the weight room. But I can tell you unequivocally, this is the guy to run the program, to lead Team 62, to propel the Raiders for the years to come. Heck, he was smart enough to get the former Harrison head coach to drive around in a golf cart and offer words of wisdom. The head coach of the Raiders, John Herstein.
Thank you, Coach Jones. For those of you that don't know, Coach Jones over there, Rick Jones that is, he is coaching football out in Minnesota at Mayo High School, and they're ranked in the top 10 in the state. He's doing a great job running the middle school program and awesome stuff. So thank you for the introduction. I also want to thank Rick Jones, Ron Crow, Doug Cohen, who wasn't able to be here tonight, and all the alumni and boosters for setting up this amazing event. You look around the room and you got 200 alumni and current Raiders here celebrating Raider football. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Appreciate that. 62 years of Raider football. This was supposed to happen a couple years ago. It's happening today. Couldn't be better. We talk about tradition and legacy. We talk with our team about this on a regular basis. So many of you have poured your heart and soul into this program and into this school to pave the way for these guys. The efforts that you put in, the time that you put in, and what it meant to be a Raider. The love that you guys have for the program is something you guys can all cherish. Whether you played for Coach Holland in Tembe and Coach Harrington when he was a JV coach, O'Leary and Babcock, Coach Thorne, I saw him in the house. He coached with them back in the day. Burrell or Lancey, Schultz or Chiesa, the common thread is a love of Raider football. You look around the room, you see people of all types of different ages. You look at our guys, 2005 or later they were born. Young crew right there. With that being said, there's plenty of shared experiences that you all have. The traditions that were here in the past still live on. STP, the Dock Rock, two-a-days, hill runs, 42 goo, still around. PMA, those bonds transcend time. transcend generations and ages. The memories that are created and the relationships that are created are lifelong. And you look at that here. I told them the other day, I'm looking forward to seeing them come back in 10 years for 70 years of Raider football. And I mean that sincerely. I can't wait for that day. We're going to enjoy the time between now and then, though. For the juniors and seniors and freshmen and sophomores that we have here with us, you think about legacy and we talk about legacy. These guys have left their legacy. It's your turn now to do the job. It's your guys' turn to play with great effort, have a commitment to excellence, and to go out there and do the best you can. Can't wait to see what these guys do tonight. Thank you all for coming out, and go Raiders. Hey, and on that note, guys, grab your stuff, clean up. We're headed outside for walkthroughs. 1, 2, 3,
Hey, good luck, guys. Okay, we're going to try to move this along. We have we're still going to have a lot of time that you guys can just sit and visit, but we have a couple things we want to get through. An announcement: the 70 team would like to get a picture in the back corner, not now, but when we're all done with this program. And that would be great. One of the things we wanted to separate out tonight, and we wanted to announce in a different way, because it's pretty special. 62 years of North Farmington football, there have only been 2 team doctors: Murray Dayton and his son, Kevin Dayton. Coach referenced it, but there's a rock out by the field house that the team touches every night when they come out to take the field, the dock rock. And the Open Press named it the best tradition in Oakland County. But Murray Dayton was a legend, and he had no idea that his son would surpass him. Kevin Dayton is one of the most amazing human beings anybody could ever meet. He's just dying over here because I'm saying this stuff. But Kevin lives in the subdivision next to North. And on Friday nights, Kevin walks across the sub, walks across the fields, shows up on the sideline in time for kickoff, takes care of kids that get dinged up, takes care of parents who are worried about kids who get dinged up, takes care of coaches. In fact, most of us, he was our doctor, okay? But he's just an amazing guy. And not only has Kevin done all of that through his career, but he has led, how many times? On 15 or more occasions, Kevin has led a medical team to Mali, West Africa, one of the poorest countries in the world. And if you watch Kevin when he's there, it's remarkable. Ron Holland and I had a chance to share that experience together with Kevin. Ron and I still don't know why Kevin took us. All we knew how to do was tape ankles. But I think Kevin figured out that he needed a couple of school guys to get people to stand in line. Because we would show up in a village and there would be 250, 260 people waiting to see
the American doctor, because there were no doctors. There's one hospital in Monaco for 2 million people. So Kevin goes over there, and what the work he does is incredible. He holds the team together, and I was blessed to be able to go with him 3 times, and it was one of the highlights of my life every time. And anyway, Kevin, thank you so much. Would you stand up so we can recognize you? Now, the highlight of tonight's program was supposed to be Doug Cohen. And so it's going to take 7 or 8 of us to replace Doug. Doug did send me his speech. I cannot do justice to all of it, but I will try to do justice to some of it. So this is what Doug wrote that he was going to share tonight. In 2007, here's one thing I got to share with you real quick. When I get up here to speak, and I've got my notes, it's 18-point font. Doug's is 10. So work with me on this if you can, all right? Doug, in 2007, after watching an episode of Friday Night Lights, I felt inspired to write a letter to the North Farmington football Raiders. As a former kid who grew up as a Raider fan, a former team captain, a current North Farmington alum, and a current Raider fan to this day. I brought it over to the school and I showed it to Todd Schultz. And Coach Schultz invited me to deliver that letter in person to the team, which was a great honor. So at that time, I told the 2007 team, Coach Schultz and the rest of his coaching staff will repeatedly impress upon you the tradition that you inherit, the legacy you will leave for future Raiders, and the fact that you will never forget your days as a North Farmington football Raider. Trust me, those coaches are right about every single word of that. So let me give you a little perspective, writes Doug. I graduated in 1988. I had been coming to North Farmington games since 1976, when my older brother Jeff was a sophomore, and both of my brothers helped lead the team to the state championship game at the Pontiac Silverdome in '78, beating Brother Rice along the way to get there in one of the most memorable games in Michigan State high school playoff history. We didn't just beat Brother Rice, we crushed Brother Rice, 26-7. They had some kind of ridiculous 27-game winning streak going on at the time. It was a thing of beauty. I have a lot of other memories, writes Doug. I'll never forget those days. I'll never forget the old van that the guys rescued. And we painted it up brown and gold, and it said Raider Pride on the front and Positive Mental Attitude on the side. And we would drive around the neighborhoods in Farmington Hills with the windows down, blasting the fight song and championship and getting fired up for the season. I remember going over to Coach O'Leary's house and staying there long into the night, breaking down tendencies for our opponent that week. I'll remember throwing a football with Todd Gasson. I'll remember Coach Temby telling Garver, do you have the blocking rules right for 51 quick trap? On, over, linebacker backside. I'm confident that each of you has similar memories from the years that you were a Raider. So being back here tonight for this celebration is really something special. It's a testament to everything North Farmington has always stood for, representing an incredible community and all of the great families who made that community. In our beloved part of Farmington Hills, Ron Holland didn't start the community, but he got it. He got it about the community. He channeled it. He built a football program in the image of the community, a stable and bedrock foundation that still has his fingerprints all over it, right down to the coaches who lead the program today, 60 years later, several of whom were Raiders themselves. And I've spent enough time getting to know the current head coach, John Herstein, to know that he gets it
too. And so I would say this to the current team, Team 62. You have the chance to make memories like this with all of your buddies the same way we did. Because it's only one time in your life that you get to do that. And I still get a chill. My eyes well up when I come back to see you guys and to see you play on a Friday night. And I hear that fight song played at Holland Field. And for as long as I live, wherever I go, and whatever I do, I will always be a North Farmington Raider. Thank you, Doug Cohen. Okay, so now we have to try to fill those shoes. Nathan Boji epitomizes what it means to be a great teammate. He was an offensive lineman who made everyone around him better. And I can speak as one of his coaches, one of his teachers, and one of his friends. And nothing has changed. Oh, wait a minute, Bo, yes it has. 3 weeks ago, you and your beautiful wife, Bianca, your 2 daughters, welcomed home a new offensive lineman, 9-pound, 9-ounce baby boy, Benjamin, Nathan Boji.
Tony is going to be first. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just as shocked to be up here as you all are shocked seeing me up here. So I just want to share a couple things about my time at North. I graduated in 1998. My head coach was Jim O'Leary, and it was coached by Schultz and a few other guys. And one great memory I have about coaching was a day that Coach Holland and Coach Tempe came out to the field, and we really didn't know exactly who they were. We had heard about them, but we didn't have a visual. But what we noticed is our coaches started acting really funny. They started towing the line. They were a little bit more in sync, I guess you would say. And within about 10 minutes of Coach Holland and Coach Tempe being on the field, we figured out why. 2 pretty intense fellas and really driven, the Raider spirit home to all of us. Coach Jones said some nice words about me as a guy that made people better around me. As a teammate, I'm really happy that my time at North was still on grainy VHS, so that way when I tell lies and my teammates and I tell lies to each other about how good we were, the fact checkers cannot tell us otherwise, because it's hard to see. North Farmington is one of the greatest things that happened to me is to be a football player here, because I made my best friends, learned about hard work, and realized that with hard work and working as a team, you can accomplish anything. And that skill was driven home to me by playing football here and by the coaches that I got to be with every day. And I've made some of my best friends. There's a guy in the back. We've been buddies since we were, I think, in kindergarten. But no better place to play high school football than right here. So, thank you. Oh, you see that helmet? The helmet?
Oh, it's back on the table. Sorry.
All right. Well, I'll improvise. So, I don't know. I coached here also for about 10 years as an assistant coach on different levels with Coach Schultz and Fifield, and when Coach Jones was principal, I would sneak into his office probably like 2-3 times a week and show him what I had planned and figure out exactly how bad I was about to screw up, and then he would fix it and it would be better. At one of our Raider golf outings that I'm sure many of you in the room have attended, there was an auction for a helmet that was signed by all of the head coaches at that time. The only coach I didn't have on there was Coach Herstein, obviously. So today it was signed. I've had it. I won it in an auction at one of the golf outings, and now that Coach Herstein's signed it, I'm going to donate it back to the school to put wherever I would like to put it. And when the time comes that there's going to be another head coach added to the list, hopefully they'll sign it too. So.
Lafer walked on and played 5 years of football at the University of Michigan. He's tough, talented, skilled, smart, and he's blessed with a world-class sense of humor. I'm not going to tell the story, but maybe, Brian, you want to tell the story. Was it the Jay Leno show or the Tonight Show or something? But when you guys were out there for the Rose Bowl, competing against Southern Cal in steak-off eating contests and whatever, Brian got on national TV and blew away Southern Cal. But anyway, Brian has never forgotten his North Farmington roots. He said to me the other day, he said, the North Farmington football program created so much opportunity for me, and I just want to find a way to give back and say thank you. So now I'll say thank you to you, Brian. Brian Lafer.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I played football for Michigan for 4 years, but we can, round up. That's good with me. It came a point where I knew I wasn't going to be a starter and just was on track to graduate, so decided not to stay for my 5th year. But it's great to be back in North Farmington, and before I get into what the football program meant to me, I think it's important to talk about what the school meant to me. As Nathan said, these are where my best friends were made. My best friends today, Kyle Medier, Robbie Salter, Ryan Lewis, you probably remember some of these names. These are all people I never would have met if it weren't for North Farmington. And I just think the school, looking back on it, I had such a diverse group of friends and classmates and people from all walks of life that it just was a really memorable high school experience. I know not everybody can say they loved the high school they went with, and I honestly think I couldn't have picked a better high school to go to. And great to see Coach Horowitz, my baseball coach, here as well, so thank you for coming. And just wanted to give Mr. Jones a shout out, because Mr. Jones, to be frank, is my mentor, was my first mentor I've ever had, and if it weren't for you, I never would have had a chance to play for Michigan. And I'll just tell you that story quickly. So it was, I applied to go to Michigan because I wasn't sure if I was actually going to play football at the next level. I was looking at schools like Kalamazoo College, a couple different Ivy League schools, but never was good enough or considered going to a program like Michigan. And luckily, Kirk Mondros, I don't know where he is, somewhere here, Kirk was a preferred walk-on at Michigan, and I think Coach Jones got to know Bobby Morrison, who was the recruiting coordinator at the time for Michigan. And without me knowing, Coach Jones sent my film to Coach Morrison and say, hey, I got a hardworking guy like Kirk. If you're looking for another walk-on, you should take a look at Brian. And without knowing that, he calls me out of my math class, I remember, and said, hey, Brian, do you want to walk on to Michigan? I was like, well, what do you mean walk on? He's like, well, I think you're on the team if you want to be. I sent your film in and they have a spot for you. So I just remember going back to that classroom, and I came from a family of Spartans, so both my parents and my brother were Spartans. I grew up hating Michigan, actually, but that was the easiest yes I've ever made in my life. But just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Jones, and that relationship didn't end at high school. I remember for 4 years you would always come to the Michigan football games and wait outside the tunnel with my parents, 2 hours after the game whenever the players got out, and was always there to shake my hand and say good job. And again, I can't thank you enough for everything you have done for me. And I'll just give the Jay Leno story because you mentioned it. But that was like, if you know you're not going to play at the next level, very seriously, I was the guy they threw in if we were up by 25 points with 2 minutes left where I couldn't blow a 4-touchdown lead myself. So those were my memories of playing time in Michigan. But it was my senior year. We were at the Rose Bowl playing against USC. This was like Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, their team. And we were on the Leno show in California before the Rose Bowl. And Leno had the whole Michigan team in the green room, and then he had USC on the night after, and he had a segment called All-American Idol to essentially show your talents and compete against the other team. So I figured this was my chance for finally 10 minutes of fame, given nobody really was watching. The big house was probably half empty by the time I got in during my playing days. So I volunteered and did an intro to the Circle of Life from The Lion King, and got on television and found a way to beat Matt Leinart at the USC team. So that was literally my 10 minutes of fame. Thank you, everybody.
two of our longtime coaching legends in North Farmington, both in the State Football Coaches Hall of Fame. And as you saw in the packet, there's a number of guys like that. One is Coach O'Leary. And Jim could not be here tonight, so he wrote up something he asked me to share. I regret I can't be with you guys tonight. I spent 40 years of my life coaching at North Farmington High School, which were some of the greatest years. I was so fortunate to coach with such great coaching legends, Ron Holland, Ralph Temby, John Harrington, who not only taught me how to coach, but how to be a better person. I've carried those lessons wherever I've coached, which currently is at Walled Lake Western. I've been fortunate to have coached so many amazing athletes, many of whom are now fathers, and now I'm coaching some of their sons. Again, I wish I could be there tonight to help you celebrate and to give each of you a big bear hug. One of my former players is now a Raider coach, Coach Zyme, and he and I have coached together and we've become fast friends. We talk almost daily, and the last thing we say at the end of each conversation is that I love you. So please never forget the lessons that you learned in football. Cherish each of the memories that you have, and I will always bleed brown and gold. And it's always a great day to be a Raider. Love to all you old Raiders, and love to all you old coaches. Jim O'Leary. This guy wasn't on the program, but he should have been. Because talk about a guy who's a legend at North Farmington, Irv Horowitz. Absolutely the funniest human being I've ever known in my life. He asked if he could get on the program and told me it would be clean. I doubt it.
Cigars.
Yeah, you know, it's just hard to talk about a guy that you've spent so many years coaching with, vacationing with, doing a lot of things with. But I remember at one of our banquets, Herb got up and he said, you know, I get asked this a lot, but how do you pick the kid who's going to be quarterback on your team? He said, I just want you to know, the kid who gets to play quarterback on my team, I pick him by what his dad does for a living. You know, I had so-and-so was my quarterback, and his dad ran a bakery. It was a great kid. I had somebody else, and he was able to provide, you know, video equipment. He said, this year I needed a new car. So so-and-so got to be our quarterback, Herb Horowitz.
For all you guys, I apologize. I know I said something about you on the field, so I apologize. But this I had to tell real quick, a Ron Holland story. I just came to football coach in North from Harrison, and we went to play Franklin. And back then, they didn't allow visiting teams in their booths, so we had to stand at the back of the bleachers, which, if you remember, Franklin was only maybe 8 steps high. And I had the phones on and the game's going. And I said, Ron, I think a screen would work here. He immediately turned, just give me down and distance. I turned around and realized it was a 15-foot drop. Nobody was behind me. But all of you that played and know Ron Holland, you know how true that is. Thank you.
I'll probably get a little emotional with this one, but I'm going to give it a shot. Todd Schultz. Talk about being Raider brothers. Todd and I started coaching together in 1987, and we have pretty much been through it all together. Years working side by side in the school, on the practice fields, weeks together coaching in the University of Michigan football camp. We've played with each other's kids. We've been side by side in times of tragedy and times of challenge. Head coach of the Raiders for 13 seasons, Todd's players learn so much more than the game of football. Because what many of you do not know, and what I don't like to recall how often it happened, but Todd came to the sidelines on game nights many, 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 many times, straight from chemotherapy. Talk about teaching priorities, teaching toughness, teaching resilience. I love you, pal.
Good afternoon. Looking forward to a Raider game tonight. I'm humbled and honored to speak with you. Rick asked me to reflect on my time as being a Raider. Some special memories from the program. He said try to keep it between 2 and 3 hours. I said I'll try. Oh, well, that was 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. Anyway, the best part of Raider football that has meant so much to all of us is what you've learned and is probably extended into your personal and professional life. So what we came here for the love of the game as young men, we learned under Ron and Ralph and Jim, during our years at least. And then I know it continued. As Rick said, in 1987, I came back from Michigan. I just graduated, looking just to volunteer somehow with the program. And they're like, okay, you can coach freshman football as a defensive coordinator. You're going to be with this guy named Rick Jones. I'm like, love it. Sure, absolutely. And as Rick said, we became brothers, and I learned so much football. He is a direct discipline from RH, and he learned so much from him. And I've learned so much from Rick and Ron and Ralph. It's just, I feel blessed to have had more experience than just my 3 years of football here, is that Coach Holland would be there. He would come in into my classroom. We would talk. Into my office when I was athletic director, we would talk. You'd have this bond. Both Rick and Ron came back and helped coach our freshman team when we were in need of coaches. Boy, that was an awakening, wasn't it? It wasn't the guys who you see here working hard. We have young freshmen learning how to put on pads, which way, button a helmet. Mom and Dad there ready to help. A little bit different, but as you can imagine, they did a great job. So Raider football, I want to thank everyone who's been part of this, and it's so many people. Yes, it's the coaches. Yes, it's the players. It's the parents. It's the cheerleaders. Doc Dayton, Jim Sturdy, the countless volunteers that make this program work, that bring it to life, the fans, the announcers, the filmers, the chain gang members, parent volunteers, groundskeepers, custodians, the ADs, the administrators, the list goes on and on and on, who have touched this program in one way or another. That makes it so great, right? We're lucky, we're the face of it at times, but it's everybody combined that has made this program what it is. Where to start with this is tough because there's so much meaning, emotions, lessons from being part of the Raider family. While coaching, we decided to create a keystone that we had our kids go by, and we tried to get the essentials of Raider football. And it was 3 things. We tried to boil it down. And the first one was respect the game. It's a tough game, physically, mentally. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to count on. You have to trust your player next to you. You have to trust that everyone's doing the right thing, whether it's on offense, defense, special teams, those scout guys who never got in. But they showed up Monday through Friday, working their butts off to make you better. So those guys played a huge part of it as well. So that was our biggest thing. Just understand that the coaches, Coach Holland, Coach Temmie, Coach O'Leary, Coach Jones, Coach Burrell, Coach Chiesa, Coach Herstein, they put everything out there and their coaching staffs because they love the program. They love the kids. It's just a great part to being part of this community. So we came to North to play this game we loved. We found it so rewarding, even though it was tough. We studied it, we practiced it, we played it through the wins, through the losses, but we became to respect this game. The second thing we had on there was just be better, right? Better than the last game, better than the last practice, better than the last play. Just be better. Be better in the classroom. Be better in the community. Be better with your family at home. The last thing we put on there was Raider Pride. That wasn't the essence of everything. It's not handed out like uniforms. Raider Pride is earned during summer workouts, during two-a-days, during practices in all types of weather, through the STPs, at the end of Thursday practices, through the 7 days a week you committed to the game. After the game on Saturdays, that horn going off for the tornado warning at kickoff, and Jim Sturdy's filming it, and you can hear it in the background, and off you play that game. And then where are you Sunday morning? Back at practice, running, watching film, lifting weights, maybe going to get a dozen donuts and watching Michigan replay after that. Well, that's what some of our teammates did. It's the best time of your life. It really is. But to the coaches, was this ever a sacrifice? No, it's not. It's made us the men that we are today, the women that we are today. We're strong enough to weather the storm. Without these coaches, teammates, parent boosters, the countless volunteers behind the scenes, we'd never been able to experience the gift that keeps on giving, Raider Pride. Thank you.
There's an awful lot of greats around here, but I'm not sure how many stars are here. Although I have a cousin in England who says I'm a star, that I'm dim and distant. But the guy coming up here next truly is a star. Not because his name is a household word in Michigan, and it is, as the voice of the Detroit Tigers. Not because he rubs shoulders with Detroit's sports elites, which he does daily. Because he's a star because he's a friend of Todd Schultz. No, wait. Seriously, I've only spoken on the phone with Matt 2, 3, 4 times. And his MO is always the same. He returns phone calls, which is not always the most common thing these days. And he always says, you know, whatever I can do, just ask. I'll help any way I can. Nothing shines brighter than that. Matt Shepard.
I'm not going to take real long, but I do want to get a letter from the Millers here in a minute. The thing that impressed me most about tonight is to find out how many sons or daughters attended here after their moms or dads went, and how many continued to play football. Like, I see the Daytons quite a bit, so that is, you know, a tradition. Marty Schobert's a friend of mine. His son played Raiders football. The Millers, their kids played Raiders football. That tells you something, doesn't it? I think it does. In my line of work, I get a chance to talk with and learn from some of the greatest athletic minds on this earth, whether it be Scotty Bowman, Mike Babcock. I'm good friends now with B.J. Hinch. I measure everybody who I talk to Ron Holland. He's the first person I think of when I start to talk to any coach at any level in any sport. And the reason I do that is because he and my father and my brother-in-law, John Dwyer, are the most influential men in my life. And he always has been, he always will be. I don't know how many people say that about him. I'm sure John Lavelle feels the same way. I'm sure Pat Leedy feels the same way. I'm sure Rich, you, and Mike Girolami, and Todd Schultz, and the Millers think the exact same thing. I don't know how many times we say it. I say it to my wife. I say it to my kids. I measure every man I meet to Ron. And that's how it works. I grew up going to North Farmington games just like you did. And I heard about Drew Mahalik. And I really wanted to see him play because I had met him. I'm like, oh my God, Drew Mahalik. I watched my brother-in-law John Dwyer as a quarterback and as a punter. I watched the Millers, Rick Roth, and marveled at their feet. I watched Jeff Cohen, and I thought to myself, those are football players. I want to be those types of football players. I couldn't be, but that's all right. I strive for it, right? Ron Holland sent this to Mr. and Mrs. Robert Miller. This is the kind of man he is, all right? He's not going to go and flaunt it, but Bob and Mike showed me this. He wrote this, and this is back in 1979. I'll try to paraphrase. I want to thank you for all the cooperation and joy that you have brought to me as a coach at North Farmington. With parents like you and two outstanding young men like Bob and Mike, I have thoroughly enjoyed the friendly relationship that we have had over the past few years. Add a person of the magnitude of Grandma Rosie, which is obviously one of their grandmothers, and you have the all-time utopia of parent, athlete, and coach relationship. That's a fine. The sharing, that's a fine, do you get it? Somebody's phone went off? Sorry. The sharing, concern, and total commitment to one another has been outstanding. The interaction of parents, athletes, and coaches has enabled North to possess the remarkable winning record, a record that is shared jointly by the parents, athletes, and coaches. So it continues. But that's the gist of it. That's the basis of it. Bob has stated this since 1979. Now you talk about an impact. We want to have an impact on kids. We want to have an impact on people's lives. Is there a greater impact than what Coach Holland wrote in this letter to parents that he didn't have to write? He could have easily said it to them, and it's been saved since 1979 by a guy who played at Ferris State. His brother played at Penn. No, there's not a greater impact. So as we move forward, and we want to impact kids' lives, or we want to impact everybody else's lives, there's a really easy measuring bar to do it. And it's Ron Holland. Is Ron Tempe still here? Coach Tempe, are you still here? Sure. Can you stand, please? Because I don't think we've recognized him enough. In Ann Arbor, who's got it better than us? But when you have Ron Holland and Ralph Tempe as your coaches, don't give me that BS in Ann Arbor. Nobody had it better than us when we had those two guys, right?
Most of you probably know, but the back drive into the field, Raider Ralph White. As far as I know, the only Raider who went to a Division I university and played two sports, football and basketball, was Mike McCoy. But Mike's legend at North Farmington has very little to do with that, at least in my mind. Mike McCoy and I go back a long way. But I can tell you with no hesitation, no one has done more for North Farmington High School over the years. No one has been a better friend to North Farmington High School over the years. No one has given more of his time, energy, and resources to North Farmington High School and the North Farmington football program than the years that have been given by Mike McCoy. Mike, come on up here. Mike, I read it just like you wrote it.
Thank you, Rick. Hard to follow all these guys that have been up here. Well, we got a great group here. What a wonderful tradition, North Farmington Raider football. Does it get better than this? Give yourselves a big hand. Ron Crow, you deserve a standing ovation and a big star on your forehead. What a wonderful job you did. You know, we were truly blessed to go to high school at North Farmington High School, and the people that made it this way. Our coaches, obviously, Ron Holland, John Harrington, Coach Tenby, Dennis Fitzgerald, Mr. O'Leary, Todd Schultz, Rich, what the hell's his last name? Burrell. Great coaches. And I've told this a number of times over the years to a lot of people that I've met, that I think maybe the two finest high school football coaches in the history of Michigan high school football, Ron Holland and John Harrington. Now, there's been a lot of good ones, Coach, but you guys are certainly up there in the top 5 or 10. I got to believe that. But I'll say one thing, not a doubt in my mind that there's never been a better high school administrator principal in the history of this state than Rick Jones. A couple of real quick ones, because you guys have heard enough talking up here, but here's a couple memories I have. There's 3 that stand out to me, and most of these are, in fact, all of them are way before any of you guys were going to high school here. Number 1, none of you guys know about the leather helmets that we used to play with. Now, I don't know, Coach, when did we go from leather to like a regular football helmet? 1966?
67.
Yeah. I have, when they were going to throw all that equipment away, Ron he thought, you know what are we going to do with all these old leather helmets? Well, he gave a bunch of them out, and I got one of them, and it sits proudly in my office. Leather helmets, guys. And that was 1960. When I was a sophomore, I played with a leather football helmet. I don't even know if we had bars across the front, did we? You had to earn those. I mean, my goodness. Now that's one memory that's kind of funny. Another one, you know, as a Dunkel football player, probably most of you guys went to Dunkel. And by the way, that was a great program too. We had Coach Kewick. Coach Kewick. You guys remember Coach Kewick, Coach Catherman, Coach Sallow, Coach Kessner was there. Were you there, Hor?
Don't put me with them.
But they had a great tradition too. I don't think we ever lost a football game at Dunkel. But I remember my best friend since we were 7 years old, and still today, Norm DeCourcy. We played at Dunkel together. We played here at North Farmington. We played together at Central Michigan. And I remember, I think it was probably 1963, 64, Coach. You can help me out here. We played, the Raiders went to Walled Lake Central High School. And we were probably in 7th grade, Norm. And it was a night game, a Friday night game. And we're driving from Farmington out to Walled Lake Central High School. It seemed like it took forever. And it was like the Field of Dreams. You get fairly close and you see that the lights lighting the football stadium, and we're going, wow, this is going to be cool. And I'll never forget sitting there as young 7th graders, 6th graders, 7th graders, and watching the North Farmington Raiders in those brown and gold uniforms come out onto the field under the lights. It was an impressive sight to hold, and at that point, Norm and I both said, you know, this is going to be fun. We're going to be Raiders someday. I'll never forget that. We were with our dads. By the way, they beat the shit out of us. But, I think it was, I don't know what the score was, Coach. It wasn't pretty. They were rated, I think, 1st in the state and had a great football team. And we were without our starting quarterback, who was a great athlete here, Lee Martilla. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coach. He would have been a difference maker in that game, I think. But anyway, I'll never forget that one. And another one would be, of course, the Denby football game. The big powerhouse, rated, I don't know, second in the state, first in the state from Detroit. Maybe the first high school game between a city school and a suburban school. And we had a great football team when I was a sophomore. I didn't play on the varsity. We had so many good players. But we had a good team, and they came out to North Farmington on a Saturday afternoon, a beautiful day. There were probably 7,000 or 8,000 people in the stands. They were favored big time, and we beat the shit out of them. And that was a lot of fun to watch that one. So those are my memories of Raider football. What a great school. We're so privileged to be a part of this program. To play with the people that we did and to have the coaches that we played for, we're pretty lucky. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see a good game tonight.
Okay, we're going to have one additional speaker, but I want to recognize one guy here that I really just met tonight. We emailed a couple times, but the first class president, class of 1964. Mike Fleming is here, and Mike Fleming is also the first person to receive a diploma from North Farmington High School. Mike Fleming, would you stand up? Where are you? Come here. There you go. Yeah, back then the guys had to earn the face mask too, so that was one of those things. Okay, the last introduction tonight. I co-chaired this event with Craig Wysinski and Drew Mahalik, and then all the work went to Ron Crow. But I found myself on conference calls stuck between two legendary North Farmington football greats, having played at Michigan State and Notre Dame.
Go Green.
The only two. Okay, the only two to have gone on to play in the NFL. And on those conference calls, they would argue about which team was better, the Raiders of 65 or the Raiders of 70. And back and forth it would go pretty much every call. Finally, one day, I mustered the courage to tell them that I didn't know who was right, but one thing I did know is that neither of them, nor Mike McCoy, nor Mark Temple, is the greatest athlete in North Farmington history. And I think I took both of them back. They were totally shocked. Then who is? They asked. My answer, and I'm sticking to it, Megan Keller, USA hockey gold and silver medalist, 5-time world gold medalist, finalist for the Patty Katzmeyer Award, the equivalent of the Heisman Trophy for college hockey. And with that said, my Raider brother, Drew Mahalik, is still my personal hero. Not for his football prowess or for his Harvard Law degree, but because of his work with the United Nations on human rights issues, his authoring of a book on sports ethics, and his efforts on behalf of the homeless in his community. Oh, and by the way, Rudy wore Drew's number in the movie.
Such a thrill to follow the voice of the Tigers. This is going to be really good compared to him. There's a common theme tonight, and that theme reminds me of the movie City Slickers, where Curly goes, there's one thing that's important, and you got to find out what that is. And I think tonight, for me, that one thing is the word entanglement. Does anybody ever major in science in this room? Entanglement is, somebody just got the Nobel Prize for talking about entanglement. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. And here's what it means. You take two atoms, you put them together, and you pull them apart,
You leave one in Detroit and put the other in Florida, and those atoms still stay connected. You turn one, the other turns. And that's what I think we have here tonight, because with 7 decades of football players, I believe we're all entangled. We are all part of the same family. And that includes legends that I haven't met, like Bensinger, Martini, Williams, Hall, and Fleming. It's legends that I know, like the DeCourcys, McCoy, who just spoke before me and may be the best all-around athlete that ever attended North Farmington, and Hub Kopp, who definitely is not the best athlete who ever attended North Farmington. We've got upperclassmates, my upperclassmates, Garcia, Emmett, Thomas, Button, my seniors when I was a junior, Lowe, Falls, Pease, Velasquez. You look at Doug's wife and you go, Doug must have a great personality. And then there are my classmates, Smith, Herpick, and Gow. Herpick and Gow started with me in the 7th grade, our first of 7 undefeated seasons. Herpick was the star back then. Gow had one quality that I don't think anybody in this room has or had. Mike was faster in a uniform than without a uniform. And I don't know how. I do remember sprinting after a receiver that I missed, and Mike ran past me like I was standing still. And it was that combination that led him to lead the nation in interceptions for Illinois his junior year, and certainly from the opening kickoff of our senior year when he ran it back against Pontiac Northern. Heck, after the first after the first six or 7 seconds of our football season, we were never behind for the whole year, thanks to Gow. The underclassmates, my senior year was Dobenmeyer, Fredericks, Smutek, Craig Gow, Peterson, and Weaver. And of course, Ron Crow. This is kind of funny. I just found out this year that Ron Crow, through those DNA testings, is my cousin. How bizarre is that? And the thing is, had I known he was my cousin when I played with Ron Crow, I would have given him more credit for all the blocking. Fact is, I never gave him any credit at all. But here's something that doesn't show up on the stats. I was never sacked my entire season at North Farmington. I was never even hit. That's how good the line was. And then youngsters that I call them youngsters, now grown men now, Daly, Dwyer, Combs, Cohen, DiAugustino, Horwitz and Schoberg, and others that I haven't met yet. But our family includes the cheerleaders, like June, Laurie, our extended family, like Ronald Lee, our grown sons, and of course the coaches, starting with Mackenzie, Temby Dean, Fitzgerald, Harrington, O'Leary, Burrell, Schultz, Horwitz, and of course, our Raider father, Ron Holland. These men clearly brought out the best in us athletically. But more notably, they gave us a high standard to live by and made each of us in this room a special member of a Raider family, entangled with each other, so that where your sorrow becomes our shared sorrow, and where your joy becomes our shared joy. We've lost some brothers and sisters in this room, particularly this year, very painful. And yet,
we're still entangled. We're still connected, and nothing's going to change that. So I submit that our entanglement with each other, it's a treasured legacy, unlike any other football program in the country. My finest hour is to be a part of this Raider entangled legacy. It's something that nothing can interfere with and nothing can challenge it. We are connected forever, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. Go Raiders.
Allie, tell Doug how much we appreciate all the effort he put into tonight, how much we miss him, how much we love him. To all of you guys in the room, thank you. We've got about 15 or 20 minutes, and then Scott Fifield, our assistant principal, is going to take anyone who would like to on a brief tour of the building. There's been a lot of renovation since you were here a couple years ago, a couple decades ago, wherever. The team of 70, they want you to meet back there and get some pictures. So let's kind of coordinate the watches. We're on Holland time at 6:24. We're going to meet right up here. Anybody wants to go on the tour? We're going to see new weight rooms. We're going to see a little bit of new front lobby. We can see a new auditorium. And then for those of you who have not been here in quite a while, we have a piece of the World Trade Center, and there's a 9/11 memorial and an outdoor classroom on the back of the school. And I think you'll want to get a look at that as well as we head out to the field. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all the effort.
Hey, thanks so much. Thanks so much. No, terrific stuff. Thanks. Thanks for being here. Yeah, really nice job.
You were part of a great group, huh? Pretty special.
Yeah,
Where do you live now, Rick?
I'm in Chicago.
Oh, you're in Chicago?
Yeah, in the northern suburbs. Yeah.
So, good drive in today was kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, no, I drove in this morning. We actually played 18
golf?
Glen Oaks, so we hopped over, so it was great.
Yeah, well, those guys are special.
For sure,
Yeah,
for
good
sure.
group.
Yeah, when did you get into town?
This morning. We live in Minnesota, but we went to Lexington, Kentucky, where my other daughter lives.
Okay.
Spent a week with our grandkids there.
Oh,
so
nice.
I missed my football game with my team yesterday, but go back now. Leave 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, go back so I can get ready for the last 2 games of the year.
Great stuff. Well, good luck the rest of the way.